And it says we are live. And this is always part of the show. I never know. So I always refresh YouTube until I'm 100% sure. There we go. Okay. Everybody, thank you for coming in tonight. I don't do a whole bunch of interviews, but tonight, very special guest, Mary L. Martin from Mary L. Martin Postcards. Undisputed. Can I call you the queen of postcards?
Yeah, that's perfect. Just don't call me the biggest or the largest.
I did that.
Don't call me big.
I think I called you the largest, the owner of the largest postcard empire.
I love that. That sounds perfect.
I didn't want to do like the queen of the largest postcard. I didn't know the best way to say it, but you are by far the world's largest postcard shop. Correct?
That sounds good. I just don't want to be known like those early freak postcards where they say largest woman in the world.
What is that? The superlatives?
Yes, exactly.
It took me forever to fit. What's a superlative? And then I was like, oh, the largest, the smallest, the greatest, the whatever. Yeah. So I'm going to welcome some people in, and we'll dive right on in. Cameron, Parker's Postcards. Another person has a postcard YouTube channel. There's so many. I just discovered one the other day. It was an older gentleman up in Pennsylvania who's been selling postcards forever, and he just started a YouTube channel. So I thought that was pretty cool. So Cameron, thank you. It's here. Yeah, waiting for it a couple years. Me too. Legacy.
Who was the person in Pennsylvania?
Mark.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and Mark, I'm sorry if you're here. If you want to share your channel, go ahead. He's out of Greensburg, PA.
Oh, okay.
There's Kelly, one of my mods and a member. Thank you very much. That's Kelly's 207 Surf Dude. You probably know them from.
Yes. Hi, Surf Dude.
Never Too Old. Thank you for coming on in. And everybody, you see across the bottom, type in MLM Postcards, and I have a special giveaway toward the end of the show. So everybody, thanks for coming on in. We have a jam-packed Q&A. And hey, Dawn, how you doing? So I'll probably just here and there put up people's comments. I do kind of have a script, so a little bit more prepared than I usually am. And we're just going to go ahead and get started.
Well, I have to say, I watched Mike's last night, and I don't know if I can promise to be as interesting as he was. It was so interesting. What I like about Mike is he is really grassroots. He didn't take he's not retired, and this isn't like a part-time gig. Mike supports his family with this business.
Right.
And, he walks the walk with it. I mean, I like everything about I liked hearing about how he started, and I never knew that story about him talking to his mom and the postcard shops near him. So I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed listening. Mike's so smart and creative. I enjoyed listening to all his ideas.
Yeah, he's very down to earth. That was one of the few. I think that was the longest I actually got to talk with him, because I always see him at York. I saw him at Allentown. And every time we want to, get into a conversation, people comes up and he, to buy stuff, and he's very focused on them. So yeah, it was nice to talk to Mike.
Yeah, so, it was very interesting. I actually listened to the entire thing. Joe and I had it on at work, and this is very interesting. And I'll jump back to Joe and I don't do a lot of interviews. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time. But when you asked, I couldn't say no to you, because I've never met, you have so much enthusiasm for this business. It's contagious.
Yeah.
And I've never met anybody like you that wants to share every bit of knowledge he has. And I thought, my gosh, if John's doing this, I surely need to, be on his show. I've never met anybody like you. You're willing to teach everybody everything you know, because you understand, there's plenty of room for everybody here. And I thought, well, if he's going to do it, I want to be part of it. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm going to blush now.
Well, I was at a show that I ran in Boston. It was in October a year ago. And I had a gentleman from Canada do my show, and he So I had a really great show, Mary, but I want to be like this guy. And he holds up his phone and you. He said,
Oh,
this is a
no.
great show, but I want to be like Popeye. And so on the way home that night, we were driving and you were doing a Whatnot show and we watched. I never had anybody come up and say they wanted to be like you. So I was
Yeah,
like, who is
I
this
would
guy?
discourage that. No, I wouldn't do that.
Okay,
But
I'll stop talking. I
but
know
thank
you
you.
probably have
Yeah,
some.
no, and that's it kind of started off as selfish because one of my first postcard shows was York. Actually, it was out in California. It was one of my first ones. But I go in there and at the time, late 40s, I was one of the youngest people there. And I'm like, wow, how can we get more people here? So that's why I started thinking about YouTube. And, I tell my daughter we're getting ready to ship her off to college this weekend. Um, I keep telling her that I'm an influencer. And she's like, no, 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 you're not. But moving into small postcard world, maybe I am just a teeny bit.
You absolutely are.
But yeah, I do
My
have a
my
passion.
heart feels for you. We won't get into how you feel about your daughter leaving. I'm sure
Uh,
that's
I
gonna
wish
be.
you would. I kind of wish you would stay home and help with the Popeyes postcard empire, but that's maybe someday. But hey, we're not here for me to learn about me. We're here to learn about you. So, can you tell us the history of Mary L. Martin postcards? How it started?
So my dad was a stamp and coin collector as a child. So he had. I don't know if you ever heard of the Bullwinkle cartoon.
Yes,
Um,
love
so he
Bullwinkle.
So he named his stamp and coin company after the Bullwinkle. He was 14. So after that cartoon, and he collected stamps and had a little minor stamp business his whole life. And he met my mom, took my mom to stamp shows, and she wasn't interested really at all. I mean, she would sit at the tables and just kind of go through, and she just really couldn't get into stamps and coins as much. And so she started buying postcards
Okay.
and at the stamp shows, and she just bought whatever she thought was pretty. And she bought them, and she'd go to flea markets and buy. And now this time we were living in upstate New York.
What? When was this about? Just
I guess it would be the 60s, the mid
60s.
60s.
Okay.
Yeah, the mid 60s. Because I was an infant. So mid 60s. My dad's going to stamp shows every weekend and coin shows, and she's going to flea markets and looking at postcards, and she's buying postcards really for a nickel boxes at the stamp shows. And
Wow.
stamp dealers would just throw them into a box. If they didn't have stamps on them, they were like a nickel. So she started accumulating a ton of postcards. And my dad was always a big buyer. So if a stamp dealer put out one box of postcards and had 10 under the table, my dad would just buy all 10. I mean, he
Okay.
never left anything on the table, literally. And I can tell you some stories. I mean, when the World's Fair was over in 1984, they called us. I clearly remember eating dinner, and they had all the postcards left over from the fair. And my mom answered the phone, and she's like shaking her head, like, "Don't tell your father. Don't tell your father." Well, we wound up getting every single card left from the World's Fair. We went down and emptied the storage unit.
To
This
Knox,
was my
Knoxville? Yeah.
dad's New Orleans.
New Orleans. Oh, that one, 84. Okay, I'm thinking Knoxville.
1984 New Orleans World's Fair,
Okay.
and I think we still have a couple of them. Oh, you see me talking. Joe's here. This is my
Yeah, heck
son.
yeah.
Hey, how you guys doing? Good evening. She's
So
not crazy.
you,
You're not-
I'm not looking. You rarely will find me without Joe. You'll see Joe without me, but you won't find me without Joe. Joe's my son, my very close friend. Maybe
Who was going to have those New Orleans cards for his whole life.
his kids will be selling them. So Joe works with me, and it's a blessing to work with him. But I'll start back to my mom. So my mom and dad started in upstate New York collecting postcards, And my mother started postcard clubs, and she copied the format of stamp clubs. So having meetings once a month, and it was already a system put in place. It was really easy to do. So she would sometimes attach the postcard meetings with the stamp meetings. My mom started a lot of postcard clubs, the Albany postcard, the Richmond postcard club. I mean, my mom and dad started postcard clubs.
Beltway Club.
The Beltway Club outside of Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
My mom and dad started them, but most of them had stamp clubs already intact. And then my mom would just, create the postcard club. And she would usually start the club shows and then turn the club shows over to the clubs eventually.
Okay.
That's kind of how she got into it. She started auctions after she'd been collecting for a couple of years. She did a mail auction. So we spent my childhood every month doing mail auctions. So I would staple, my brother would fold, my sister would put on postage, because you had to be smart to do the postage. Figure that. So she was older. She was 10 years older. She got to do postage.
Okay. And your other siblings, they're no longer involved? All you?
No, they're not. My older sister and my brother, my little brother, he's the mayor of our town.
Oh,
And
okay.
he is not involved. He's also a school teacher, and my sister's a nurse. So I'm the only deltiologist in the family, and then my son, who works with me.
Right. Okay. Now, did you go willingly into the family business, or I mean, was Postcards always passionate?
I loved it. I mean, I loved it. I grew up going to shows literally every single weekend.
Okay.
And it was a great way to spend my life. In the back of a station wagon, we have these metal trays that I would actually lay on top of.
Yeah.
To go to shows. But this was, early 70s. So I don't know if that was legal or not back then.
I remember riding in the back of a station wagon and just sliding around on the metal, no seat belts, Gen X.
No, exactly. But we went to shows that way, and it truly was a great childhood. I mean, I couldn't have had a better childhood. Every city that had a postcard show we went to, and I tagged along and loved it. I just grew up loving it. I left for a little while. I didn't really start working for my parents until, I guess, after Joey was born. I mean, full time. I always was labor in the family, helping, kind of like my kids and my grandkids. But, fully, I didn't start really working and run the business till after Joey was born.
Wow. Okay.
And so now Joey really kind of runs everything for me. And
not quite,
Not quite. So did you ever have technically like a real 9-to-5 punch the clock type of job?
Yeah, with well, I mean, I did have jobs before my parents. I used to supervise McDonald's restaurant. I did McDonald's restaurants. And it was hard. It was hard. But then
Postcards or McDonald's? Postcards or
it was like a great, benefits were great and the money was really good, but I missed postcards. I came to work for my dad. He started me after I was making great money supervising at a restaurant. My dad started me at $3.65 an hour. And we had 10 employees. But I worked for them. I wasn't like the leader of the group or anything.
Right.
So I started with a very minuscule task of very, stuff, I don't know how to do today. Probably shipping. I don't even know.
Stuff she hasn't done in a
Right,
little
I haven't
while.
done. And then eventually I took on more tasks, and but we have always had a good amount of people working for us. And my mom retired maybe late 90s, I guess.
Okay.
And then I took on more responsibility.
Okay. Wow. And how many shows does Mary L. Martin Empire Corporation, how many shows do you all sponsor or put on every year?
I mean, about 6 to 8 something like that. I mean, some of them we do, like the Havre de Grace one, we do a couple of times. But we have our DeLand, Florida, the DC photo, our Havre de Grace, Minnesota, and the York show.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll do a New York City show every once in a while. We run for the club, but the club is doing their own now. Mike Casera is the president, and he's going to be running the show in November. So it's a new location. It should be nice. It's, in the village. So that's like a new spot. Maybe we'll get more people walking in off the street. Right. So I'm excited for that to happen.
Yeah, I don't know if Michael's in here or not, but he's one of the ones that I want to. He's on my list to contact for future interview. The postcard world just fascinates me, and I'm always learning. And I don't want to do the traditional. There's Michael. I just see him coming in here now. I don't want to do the typical YouTuber, interviewing a YouTuber. I want to do, sellers. And there's a lady who I want to interview in the next couple of weeks. She's young. She's in her maybe late teens, early 20s. And she sells postcards from her dorm room at college. And that fascinates me. She said that last year she had to have a part-time job to help with school. And now she's just doing all postcards to help for pay for college. So I want to interview her. And of course, Michael's in here. Michael is probably the first you're hearing it, but I'll be contacting you, seeing if you want to do an interview and the interesting aspects of postcards.
That's a good one. Mike has a lot of fresh ideas for the club. I like to consider myself one of the oldest club members of the Metropolitan Postcard Club. It was my first show as a child that I remember. I was 4 years old, probably, at the Union Hall in New York. And that, to me, it was it was fascinating to go into New York City and sell postcards. And I just felt, I lived in, Glen Burnie, Maryland, in this little town. And we were going into Manhattan and meeting fancy people. And I loved it. And so the Metro show was always very special to me.
Okay.
And I love the club. It's always been a great club, a fun club. Their Christmas parties at their club Christmas parties were fun. And it's a fun club. Mike is doing some changes that definitely need to be done to bring things up to date. And so I'm looking forward to the show. I think the location change could be good in the village too.
Okay. And isn't that the club that the Lauder guy, doesn't he belong to that?
He does.
Have you seen his collection? I would love to see that collection.
Well, yeah, some of it. I have. I've been fortunate enough. I've known he was very good friends with my mom as a very small child. I tell this story, as the first person I really heard speak French. I was at a show and there was French dealers. Now, I never heard anybody speak another language. Not that I was from, a hole in the wall, but I was in Glen Burnie. Nobody really spoke French. And so I go to the show in New York and there's French dealers from Paris selling postcards. And that was a really amazing thing for a little girl. So he walks in and, he's friends with my mom and he says hello to my mom in English and then turns and speaks French to the dealer. And he can speak 2 languages. I was so impressed. I told him the story just a few years ago. I said, I was so impressed. I wanted to take French in school. I thought it was amazing how he could speak English and then French to another person. But he was in competition in the early 70s with my mom for Art Nouveau postcards.
Oh, I can imagine.
Probably so he vacationed in the south of France and he was into the European postcards way before my mom. But once my mom caught on and found it, they would be head to head with the Art Nouveau cards.
Right.
And so, as told you, as my father would buy everything, when they went to Paris, my dad bought everything my mother liked, and she saw things that she'd never seen yet. Imagine. It was probably the biggest change for our company that ever happened was going to shows in Europe because
you've been I was going to ask, you've done shows over there. That'd be
Joey's first show I guess he was 10. Went to BIPEX.
BIPEX, yep, in England.
It was the biggest show in London. Well, in England, probably in Europe.
I saw that. Is it the Festival of Cards? Is that another one, or is that the same one?
That's a different one. BIPEX kind of closed down. They moved. That's the Shepton Festival Cards.
Is that Shepton Mallet, I believe?
Shepton Mallet. Is that the
festival? It's in like Worker, something like that, England. Something on Facebook just popped up today about that. That's on my someday list to maybe go. I think is that the one Dave would go to, or is that the BIPEX?
Dave would go to Shepton Mallet. I mean, it was kind of a chuckle because
he struggles to get to New York City, but he'll go to Shepton Mallet like in the middle, I think, of kind of nowhere.
He shows up late for Haverty Grace, and he can't get there on time. I say, Dave, how do you get to Shepton Mallet? There's no trains to Shepton Mallet. It's like, I think you have to take a train to the station and then a cab or something.
Like an hour bus.
I don't know
how he works it out.
He's so funny. He's such a character.
I like Dave.
He's such a character, like from a soap opera.
Yeah, it took me. I always tell a story I bought from someone who Dave would sell to. And I was like, okay, where do you get your cards? And he said, a guy named Dave lives over your side of the state. And it took me like 10 years to where I could meet Dave and buy from Dave. So I thought that was pretty fun. That's why one of the main reasons I joined the Beltway Postcard Club was so I could meet Dave. So I kind of like a Dave stalker, I guess you could say.
It sounds like it.
But Dave is great people. I like talking. I can just sit at Dave's house and we just talk postcards. And I love it. I can just talk postcards.
Old movies.
Oh yeah,
old movies with him all day, and he'll call me on and say, "Oh, you know what's on TMC tonight?" And so he's an interesting character. I mean, he's like a soap opera character. I mean, we have so many people like that in this business.
Yeah.
I'll say, and it's fun that Joey remembers them all because
that's awesome.
I mean, I'll say 20 years ago, didn't that person fall off a cliff in Colorado or something?
And then they show back up.
And here they come. They're back. I'm like, I'm sure you didn't look like that. But their collections will show up. That's what's really fun too. We are very fortunate to get collections from people or children that my parents knew. Right. So we are very charmed and fortunate in that way that we get calls that people that trust my parents and they trust us to make a fair offer. So we do get a lot of postcards that way.
That's awesome. Well, when a history of 50 plus years or so of treating people fairly and doing a lot to promote this hobby. So which kind of gets me to a next question. Where do you think postcard shows are going and the future of the hobby?
I get that question all the time. It's number one question I get.
Yeah.
And shows are challenging right now. The people that like shows. I personally love shows. I don't like to sell online. My favorite part of the business is getting to meet people. I didn't know anything about Whatnot, and that's how I fell in love with Whatnot, because I feel like it's almost a way that I can talk to collectors and friends again. And I've made, I don't know how long we've been selling on eBay. I don't think I've made a single connection or a friend on eBay. Not anybody. Right. And I mean, we sell, I don't know how many. I mean, I'm not like McDonald's putting up my sign, 18 million postcards served.
Right.
But I can't think of any friends, Joey, that I have connected with. We've been on Whatnot such a short time. I feel like I've made so many friends on Whatnot. That's what I love about the platform.
And we're still learning, and they're all so helpful.
Yeah.
Like when we don't know how to do something or make a mistake, everybody's so helpful. Like on eBay, they just want to point out that you messed up. They want to rub it in your face.
Exactly.
And I mean, I love when they come to a show, I get to meet them. I mean, Annie was the star of our Minnesota show.
Yes.
I mean, everybody thought she was just a jewel, and her energy in the room just bounced off the walls.
Yeah.
And so I love the platform of Whatnot because I feel like you still have that connection like you had at shows.
Right.
So those are important to me. eBay, I know they get the traffic and you have to be on it, but I don't feel like you have that personal connection.
No, very
I will always do shows. Always do shows. I will do shows if I'm the only person sitting up in my hotel room. I will do a show.
Yeah.
I love the connection with the client. So if there isn't any other dealers left and Joey and I are just renting out a ballroom or something in a Holiday Inn, we'll be there.
Right.
That's how I like to sell cards. I mean, I think so. The future for shows for us, we will always travel on the road and set up somewhere because I have to see people, show people the cards,
Right.
and
Right.
talk to people. If I just had to do eBay, I don't know if I could just do it. So Whatnot is a great platform for me because I can talk to collectors if they ask me when I'm showing the card, is that signed or who published that?
Right.
And I can, in eBay, it's not an educational. eBay's not a platform to educate buyers at
Right.
all. And
like about Whatnot, yeah.
You need to have the enthusiasm like you do, and like Whatnot people to build the excitement.
Yeah. Do you think there's a future where Whatnot blends with a live in-person postcard show? Kind of like, you got the Comic Cons, you got the big sports card shows. Do you ever, where Whatnot goes and sets up? And I know Whatnot has done like antique shows in Ohio. We were trying to see if they would go to Allentown, which is a big, Allentown paper show. But do you ever see Whatnot meshing with the older people at postcard shows?
That's a good question. I don't know how to handle it. I could see my dealers getting maybe frustrated with it, mad. I don't know what to say yet because I've had a couple people ask me, and my dealers, well, do they buy a table to come do Whatnot to sell? I mean, that's tricky, John. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's right on the verge to it. I think it's there. I think it's on the verge of happening, but I don't know how it's going to happen politely yet.
Right. Yeah, I was just curious, just because like all those benefits and features of Whatnot. If you could bring that to a postcard show, I would kind of look at it as a selling point. You've been seller. You've been hauling these postcards to every show for years, and you have like a limited number of people who actually go to postcard shows. How about if you could sell this whole box like in the next 20 minutes or half an hour, and show them how to do it and somehow get them their money? And I mean, I don't know. It's just a thought, because I'm harkening back to, I don't know, 7 to 10 years ago. My first show is like, how are we going to keep this going? Bring in new people to, who get an interest in maybe collecting cards. And then I have so much now that now I need to sell some. And they're, I know that the when I go to York, they're really, Mike Blood he's younger than me. I think Cherryland, the guy who runs Cherryland, is younger than me. Maybe a couple other ones, but there really aren't too many. And it just seems like I've always heard, well, so-and-so dealer, passed away, and so another dealer passed away. And I just wondering how to get new and younger people involved. And I thought Whatnot would be a way to do that. I thought YouTube 7 years ago would do that. And I think it's helped a little bit, because I'm always at York and other postcard shows, and someone, hey, I watch your channel, and I'm here at my first postcard show. So just,
somebody at New York City sat down at our table, and she was at New York City because of you.
Awesome.
Yeah, she saw you, and I mean, you're an icon to the people.
Where's my sign? I'm a kind of a big deal sign. It's over there.
Yes, you are. I mean, people, because I always ask people, how did you find out about the show? And, especially I like to see where they saw an ad, and they just said Popeye, and so it works. I mean, you might not know that it works, but it works.
I don't know where I put them, but I always not hand out, but when I sell a postcard to someone in the DC area, I always put in uh, the postcard for the Beltway Postcard Club, and Dave gave me a stack of cards for the Having a Grace show, and if there was someone in Baltimore or DC area, I would stick those in just so hopefully more people show up. And I'm sorry, I really wanted to be at Having a Grace this year, but I didn't want to infect. I didn't want to be the cause of more dealers, leaving the business for other reasons. So,
well, I mean, we missed you, but I appreciate it. To get younger people at shows, Joe and I talk about that all the time. We do a show in Florida that I run a show in DeLand, and a client told me about this show in Gulfport, Florida. You probably have never really even heard of Gulfport, Florida, have you?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Many people haven't.
I know people that live like 45 miles away, and they haven't heard of it.
So we heard about this show, and it was so mobbed, John. They had the fire department. They had to shut down. They wouldn't let any more people in the building, okay, because it was a max capacity. So it was a Florida vintage show, anything Floridiana.
Okay.
And so it was a one-day show. It was only 6 hours. And I do not want to drive to Florida all the way to Gulfport for 6 hours, but I kept hearing about the show. So we go down. It's everything that a promoter my age or postcard promoters don't want. Okay. It's on a main street. There's no parking.
It's on the water. I mean, you can't unload. Your clients can't park anywhere.
Wow.
I mean, they're walking around with drinks. In like a full bar, which is fine for me.
Music. They have a Bloody Mary bar. There's music. It was so busy. I mean, all I was thinking about was my dealers. They would be complaining, Mary, we can't park, this and that.
Right.
It was so mobbed. I have pictures of it. Joey and I couldn't handle it.
Our friend next to us is like, I can't even eat lunch. He's like, I'm a diabetic. I got to stop and eat lunch. I'm so busy.
Wow.
All young people, but it's all opposite. So the promoter doesn't do anything but Facebook and Facebook.
Social media.
Social media, that's it. Because I asked for some postcards. Do you have any flyers, postcards? I'll put them out at my show. He says, no, I don't have any. And so I said, okay, well, I run a big show in January. I'd like to put them out. He said, we just do social media. So the crowd is young, but he's very particular about my booth. He doesn't want it to look like a regular postcard booth. So it has to be visually attractive. He wants the whole show that way. He wants the whole show attractive. So Joey and I get flamingo tablecloths, and we painted some spin racks pink, and we do a beautiful visual table, which, I like that the promoter wants that, because let's face it, when you walk into the Havre de Grace show, you just see a bunch of old people in white boxes.
Well, yeah, it's still awesome, but yes, I understand.
I mean, there's nothing sexy and appealing to a young person. And if you're new to the hobby, it's awkward, because you walk up, you don't know what to do or to touch. But when you walk up to someone's table and they have cases or spin racks or things out, it's easier to look at things. You don't feel like, am I supposed to touch this?
Exactly.
That's the situation. So one way we get more younger people in is we do things, I think, on busier streets and things where young people walk and go through. Right. They're not always at a community center up on a hill, or, they may be in town on a busy street where there's bars and things and, shops, it's a different way of thinking. Everything that show does is everything I wouldn't do if I was running a show. And I would never have a show on a busy main street where you couldn't park.
Live music.
Oh yeah,
a bar.
The music is so nice.
Can you see Dave painting his white boxes like pink and fluorescent colors?
Exactly. Well, you have to be creative. If I said that to my dealers, it's already challenging enough for them.
Well, I think we tried to play music at setup day at York. Just like over there, and they complained.
They complained,
and it wasn't loud.
It was just a little Motown.
That's funny.
But So there, first of all, young people aren't going to start to collect. Younger people, they're
Right.
busy in their 20s. They don't have a lot of money. So
Right.
you got to be at least 30s before you have any kind of money that you can think about on spending on student loans or something.
Right.
And so when people say, oh, I don't see young, well, you're not going to ever see, I've never seen a lot of young people in the hobby. 30s and 40s, late 30s and 40s would be great, to start seeing more. But we see them online. They buy more online. They're not coming to shows because it's not.
Or there sometimes the other shows, like the crossover shows, like the antique, like the Brimfields, things where there's a little bit of everything, not just the postcard and stamps.
Right. Yeah. I was at the Harrisonburg, Virginia show. I guess that was maybe a month ago. And I don't know if you've ever been to that one. It's pretty small, maybe 10 to 12 dealers. And at the time, I think I might have been the youngest person there. But I think it was the second day. These two, they had to be in their young 20s. But one girl kind of came in, had like the 50s poodle skirt almost. And they spent probably 4 hours laughing their asses off. They were having such a good time. And, at the postcards, it's relatively quiet. You don't hear any loud laughing or outbursts. Like, maybe as, someone's telling a joke, but it was constant. And I was like, part of me was like, oh, are these older people going to get upset that kids are having fun at a postcard show? And I would look around. I had a huge smile on my face because I thought it was incredible that at least two young people showed up and were having a great time. And I looked around at the dealers and, some of the other attendees, and they were smiling too. And we could hear the girls in the back room, just they found some postcard that they just found incredibly funny. But I just thought that was awesome. They spent a lot of time in the quarter boxes. So, as long as there's quarter boxes, you can do pretty well if you're a reseller or collector in a quarter boxes. So I just thought that was awesome. And I hope to see that continue, youngins showing up.
Yeah, I think you see a lot of that in New York. They do get a younger crowd in the New York City show. And you see a lot of them really enjoying the postcard. I rarely introduce postcards to people, young people, and they find them boring. They always find them interesting. You just need to make them aware of it.
Right.
The enthusiasm spreads, and I've been challenged by young people. I don't really collect anything, this sort of thing. But Joe and I can always find something that they're interested in.
Yeah, everything that's ever existed is or has been on a postcard.
Yeah, and then you have the messages, and people are naturally nosy. They want to read people's stuff. They love to read people's stuff, and I rarely have people that say, "Oh, I'm so bored. I don't want to look at this." I'll tell you a story. We had the privilege of decorating Tiffany's stores with postcards about 8 years ago. They decided to do a display in their stores, and they wanted postcards from the 40s and the 50s. And they made chandeliers out of the postcards. They put them in the windows, and they put diamond studs. They were all pictures of places.
Wow.
And in the Manhattan store on Fifth Avenue, they just did a big table and just spread out the postcards with messages. So I went up to the store. Obviously, I was in this moment, surreal moment. I couldn't believe that Tiffany's had postcards everywhere. So I go to the store and I'm talking to the security guard, and I told him, we supplied these postcards. And he said, do you know this is the only thing in here that men have ever enjoyed to look at? They stand at this table and read the messages while their wives shop and look at jewelry. He said they stand here for hours and look at these postcards on the table. And they just had them scattered out flat on a table. But he said people love it. It's the only thing we've ever had on display that men will ever stop to even look at. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
It is cool.
This is a big deal. It's Tiffany's in New York City. And they chose postcards to bring people in. And I just don't think it's exposed enough for people to be,
Right.
they're not aware of what a collectible, affordable gem postcards are.
You need to start doing social media, YouTube channel, a weekly show, kind of like Whatnot, but you're just talking about postcards. So
You're
bring all the young ones
inspiring. You are inspiring. I don't know. I mean,
You'd have to teach me, Papa. I don't have any idea how to do that. You'd have to hold my hand.
It's pretty easy. You just turn the camera on and start talking about postcards. I could talk, and I know you all could talk postcards for hours and hours and hours on end. There's always something to talk about with postcards.
well, I'm intimidated by your background. It's so nice and neat.
Oh no, it's
I
you
am.
don't see over here much.
Oh my gosh, I saw you and Mike, and even Mike's neat. I mean, is
That's
real? Mike Blood's like so organized.
He green screened that.
I mean, that's what I was thinking. That's to be green. I mean, how can you be successful with just neat little boxes?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I said to Joe, I can't talk to John because of the way our office looks. So we decided not to show the office, but maybe if we get it cleaned up, we'll do a tour with you one day.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I think people on here would love to see again the largest postcard empire, in the world. How many cards do you think you have in your store? I know in the back room and all that.
But we have a warehouse.
In the warehouse.
A warehouse in Perryville probably has 6 million, 6 or 7 million, but maybe 8 million. 8 million postcards.
They multiply. When you leave them alone,
exactly.
They multiply.
And then in Happy Grace, our shop, 5 million, maybe 5 million.
Wow. All categorized and inventoried?
Nope.
They're in categories. I mean, we have foreign section and, holidays and states, and they're categorized.
There is a rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah. Actually, I think I don't think. Yeah, you used to sell out of the Perryville location, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I went in there once when I was a federal probation officer in Maryland. Had to go to Baltimore for just an hour, and they cut me loose, and I drove up to your shop in Perryville, and I was looking for the small town I grew up in, and you had a card. You actually had a couple cards, and I only bought one, but and I remember there you had like quarter boxes out on like cinder blocks and wooden thing, and I was like,
you have a good memory.
Well, that's about all I have, and it's going quickly. But I wish I could have spent more time in the quarter boxes there, but I couldn't. But someday would be awesome to come down and tour the shop. That would be very, very awesome. So
I would like that. We'll do that. That's a date for sure.
So, do you collect any? I know a little bit of what you collect, but do you collect any particular? And Joe too. I want to hear from Joe. Both, if you both collect something.
Joe, you should be on camera. You should be, because I feel like
slide over. People think you're crazy.
I'm telling you.
You're just kind of looking over.
So I collect anything that wow.
All right.
If people say, wow, that's really cool. And I still say, wow. I go to shows and say, wow, all the time. I mean, I see things all the time that I've never seen before. So social history, I love this, and beautiful art cards. Anything that I'm coming across that really stops me and I have to look at it for a second, that's what I collect. Okay. And of course, we have a nice Maryland collection. Joey has a great sports collection.
Okay.
Yeah, our local area, and then things that I'll probably never buy again, but I liked it that time that I saw it. It's not like I collect everything in that subject, but it was just a unique card, so I liked it.
And we get collections. So we get collections of like military dogs, Judaica. Right. So things come to us in a collection, and we don't like to break the collections up.
Right. Okay.
We always try to place them when they come like that. We like to keep them together.
Oh, okay.
Probably sell them to somebody that breaks them up, but I don't want to know that I break them. I mean, I'll probably sell them to an eBayer that sells them all in different, but I don't break them up personally. We and we have had unique collections. Lily is
Lily of the Valley is like thousands different. Everyone's different.
Right. But I'm talking like 40 boxes of them.
Wow.
And it's on and on. I could go on the whole show telling you every type of collection.
I'm here all night.
Yeah.
But I know in the interest of time, well, we might have to do this again. But yeah, like I said, this show could go on for hours just talking postcard talk.
Postcard talk. So that's sometimes I'll get a collection. I don't want to sell it. That's intact. Recently, or sometimes a museum will buy it if it's really super. We had some really derogatory. We had a hanging collection, and I wouldn't sell it. I don't want to sell that type of material, but it belonged in a museum. So a museum bought it, and it was historical and important, but I wasn't going to put it out at a show.
Right.
I didn't want to have that subject matter, but we get a lot of collections. I'll keep them many times,
and we don't try to flood the market. Sometimes, like there's a collection we got that was a few thousand albums of Florida, and we could have just probably killed the Florida postcard market, but we try to do it right or get it to private collectors and not just on eBay and at every show and everything like that.
We sell collections for people, and we won't do it in 6 months. Sometimes we tell them it'll take us 4 years because you have so much of one item that for a Valentine collection, we got 85 albums of Valentines. Well, you can't put 85 albums of Valentines out once. So we sold it over a few years, and probably one of my favorite story is, we just have so many. We just have so many stories. But it was a snowy day. We weren't even open. Joey was working, and somebody saw, we have multiple eBay stores. We can talk about that later, but one is Bayside Antiques, because that's the name of our shop, Bayside. So we have Bayside Antiques that we used to use when we put antique items on, because we had dealers in the mall, and if they got something, we'd sell it for them. So we started that. We no longer do that. We just have postcards on it, but that's how Bayside Antiques started. So anyway,
and if anybody's in Havre de Grace, am I saying Havre de Grace? I don't know if I could pronounce that correctly.
That's what the locals say, Havre
de Grace. Okay, kind of all mushed together.
Mayor says it. It's how the mayor says it.
That's how he says it. So my brother says it. So they thought,
if they want to visit you, they can come to your physical shop, normal. In it's downtown Havre de Grace,
right downtown on Washington Street. We're a block off the water. Have you been there yet?
Yeah, I've been to your
shop. That's what I thought.
Yeah,
I know you've been to Perryville, but people can come. We're open 7 days a week. We only keep out maybe 200,000 or 300,000 cards for people to see. They're all organized. So if you're looking for something special, if you would want to call us, like say you're coming to look at Yellowstone, well, we have 84 boxes of Yellowstone. So we could show you Yellowstone, but
you might only have 200 of it available if you don't contact us ahead of time. Kind of thing.
So people should always contact us. If you could only keep 1,000 cards.
Yeah, I was writing this down.
We have this talk all the time. It's so funny because God forbid, like something happened, like a hurricane.
Right.
Hurricane was last week. Joey and I always say this. Like, what would you run and grab? And we always play this game. Think monetary, I would think. Well, we have a lot of cards in a safe, which would be safe in our safe. But things that are out that aren't in a safe. I mean, I guess, what do you think? What are you saying?
Well, there's some particular photos or Halloween that I would probably grab first.
Right.
Yeah, probably some of our real photo. I mean, all my great stuff isn't in a safe or in a bag. But I mean, I guess we'd probably grab Halloween. We have a lot of Halloween. So I guess.
Dave always tells me about what you all buy, and I'm like, that's awesome. wish I could get something like that. Just real quick, I have to ask, how was that Hold the Light collection you went to look at out in wherever on the way out to Minnesota?
On the way out to Minnesota. It was good, it was large. I mean, it was large. Sometimes Joey will ask now, sometimes let's say we have a box, or we have this or album that we get, and it's like 25.
Well, people will say I have a lot of cards, and then it'll be 30 cards, and like, oh, I don't have very many, and it's 30 boxes. Wow. So people we have to reference what's a lot to you? Right. Is it an inch or is it 100 inches?
And I actually love Hold to Lights. I think Hold to Lights are such sleepers. I think that they are so. I love Hold to Lights. If you can buy Hold to Light for $25, $30, buy them.
Right.
Buy them. Santa Hold to Lights on eBay. If you see them, and of course you need to buy all these in good condition.
Of course.
Okay, they have to be in good condition. But I mean, even Santa Hold to Lights under $200, I buy them up. Wow. I think you cannot go wrong with Hold to Lights.
Right.
It's the number one thing. If you put one in somebody's hand, when I do if a TV show will come in and filming, let's show me a rare card, and I show them a Hold to Light, they're fascinated by it.
Right.
They always are fascinated by Hold to Lights. We don't make anything like that now. And the detail that went into making a Hold to Light, I think that they're undervalued. I would put, if somebody asks me, oh, what should I start collecting? I say Hold to Lights. I think you can't go wrong. You can always sell them. People love them.
But no Hold to Light book out there, right?
No.
Maybe you can add that to your book repertoire.
We know somebody that is working on a large. I mean, he probably has the largest collection we know of. So we're trying to talk him into it, doing something about it. I don't have time to do a Hold to Light book. Somebody wants me to do an update on a Halloween book. We've done 40.
I was going to ask, how many books have you
like 40 coffee top books that really, we didn't do them. We supplied the postcards for them.
Okay.
And the publisher wanted to do all these cities. So they did most of the work. We did a few of them, like the Geisha book, and we did a couple of them. But the only books I've done, yes, that one. That's the book that we've done.
Yeah, I always tell because people always ask, what book should I get? And before this came out, I'd be like, get the Mashburn books. They may be out of date and the prices may not be 100% anymore, but it gives you an idea of collectability. And I always say, get the large letter greetings book, and then the real photo guide. I said, get that one. And then yours came out, and I said, get this because it is by far one of the best beginner price guide books out there. And so it's incredible. And that's why everybody's seeing the MLM postcards going across to enter. At the end of the show, going to give one of these away. I wanted to go to the Have It a Grace show and actually pick up a couple copies there and have Mary sign them, but COVID got me and I couldn't make it. So we have to do this one here. So that's what the MLM postcards across the bottom. That's what that giveaway is for. We're going to give one of these books away. And if you don't win it, you can go to, it's Mary L. Martin Postcards, or is it just MaryLMartin.com?
MaryLMartin.com.
And there's a bookstore on there, and all the books that Mary was talking about, the coffee table books are on there, and this. Or go to a postcard show like York that's coming up, always the week right before Thanksgiving, and you always have these out there, right?
Yes. Thank you. And they're discounted.
And discount, yes. I think I paid.
That's the one show that's the one book we worked on. That was a 4-year project. That was not like the coffee table book. That was really hard, and it would have never been completed without Dave Bowers. He's the co-author of the book. For people that don't know Dave, he's the #1 author in the world of rare coins. So Dave writes, and he is the price guide for coins. And he's also a postcard collector.
Wow.
And he knew how important that guidebook was. And it's so hard with postcards.
Right.
Like with coins, you can look up every single coin. It's documented, stamps. It's like that. Sports
Right.
coins. Postcards was hard. I didn't know how to tackle it. He pushed me. He worked on it. I would get a chapter, he'd write the chapter. I would put the prices in, and
we'd finish a chapter at like 10 o'clock at night, and we'd wake up the next morning, and at 6 a.m, he'd have 4 more chapters for us to review.
He's amazing, amazing writer.
Wow.
People stand in line to meet him at coin shows. He is, people will wait and don't even get a chance to say hello because he's so popular.
Well, when we would go to dinner with him at the coin shows, it's like being with the Beatles. The whole time people are just coming up, interrupting, and I just want to shake your hand. I just want to meet you. So it's like, I imagine what it'd be like meeting with the Beatles or something. It was like
it was just like that. He's so famous in the coin world, and the coin world is huge. So what made that book extra exciting for me is that people have standing orders for anything he writes.
Wow.
Just send it to me and we buy it. So many of those books were sold to people in the coin world because they have just a standing list with coin shop. Once it comes out from Dave Bowers, just write it. And then I was honored to have Leonard Lauder do the foreword to the book. But I do, any price guide is not going to be, it's all like a judgment call. But it gives you an idea of what makes it rare. And,
just an idea.
It's an idea. It was really for a good book to introduce people. They sell it at Barnes & Noble or Costco's, like to introduce people to collecting. It needed to be done. I was glad he pushed me because it was important. And so many images. I love all the images.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
The checklist.
And this is a great book to have like in the bathroom, truthfully. When I grew up, it was always the Encyclopedia Britannica we took into it, but it's great material. I'm always learning, and that's anyway, I digress.
I appreciate it. And then the only other book that I could say truly worked on would have been the Muka book. Those are the two books and that one was with Dave also. The Muka. That was, my mom did the original book in the 70s with Dave, and then Dave and I redid the book 10 years ago in color, hard copy in color.
Well, on Muka, have you handled or actually seen in person? Is it the Waverly? Was it the bicycle or it's bicycle?
Waverly Cycle postcard.
You have one?
Yeah. Have I held one?
Yeah. Or do you have one? I mean, you don't have to disclose your.
No. I've had many.
You had them.
Well, there's, I guess, maybe 10 known or something, maybe less than that. And I have had them and sold them.
Wow.
I own one that somebody desperately wants, and they keep hounding me for it. And everybody asks me what sold for. The most recent one, I guess, that I sold was a little over $14,000.
Wow. Okay. No Babe Ruth for 150 or anything like that on postcards? Or is that in your collection, Joey?
Not quite. Yeah, not quite anything like that.
No, Joey sold a card for $50,000. So
wow, amazing.
$60,000. But it was for charity.
Oh, that's all. Okay.
I'll tell you this story. I love the story. I love to brag. You might have already heard it. When Joey was 13 years old, 13, he went on a Titanic cruise where they were trying to lift the hull of the Titanic.
Oh, wow.
And he went with my dad. My dad took him, and the idea was they were going to lift the hull of the Titanic to study it. It was like National Geographic. And anyway, Joey went on this cruise. He was the only child on the cruise, you can imagine. Well, Edith Heisman was a survivor of the ship. She was 16 years old when she was on that ship when it went down. Or I guess her dad died. He went down, but she got off with her mother. So she's on this ship with Joey. So Joey takes a fairly common Titanic postcard on the ship with him, and he asks her to sign it. And because he's a little kid and he's the only kid there, she signs the card. Joey brings it home, puts it in his collection. So fast forward a year later, he has a friend in school whose mom has leukemia.
Uh-huh.
And the school is trying to raise money to pay for the bone marrow testing and transplant. So Joey puts his card up for sale.
And the movie had came out.
Oh, the movie just
as this all was happening.
Wow.
The movie had come out, so it kind of got
Even
even
more
popular. Yeah.
So the movie comes out and the card gets a bid and somebody reads in the local newspaper. And I think Joey was Joey, you could have been a dishwasher at a restaurant and maybe they were bidding on it or something. Oh, the card goes up to like $500 and it's in the local newspaper and we're excited it's at $500. Well, evidently the AP press picks it up. Rosie O'Donnell reads about this postcard and has her assistant call me. Well, I thought it was a friend playing a joke.
Right.
So they're like, we're from the Rosie O'Donnell show. And we want to have him up to be on the show.
Wow.
And so I'm like, are you kidding? And they said, well, you cannot, if you tell him that we're giving him the money, we won't do it. But he has to be surprised. So we go up and Joey, I don't know if you ever watched the Rosie O'Donnell show, but I'll send you this clip of this on him on Rosie. He's so cute, 13. And he's like, I'm Joey from Haverty Grace, Maryland. And Rosie comes out and he hadn't met her yet. So she comes out and it's like, hey, Joe, you got a special card there. And his best friend's there. The mom is there with the cancer. Joey's friend and the mom with the cancer. He stands up and she says, tell me about this card, Joe. And he says, well, I'm trying to raise money for my friend. And she said, how much money do you need? And Joey says, we need a lot. And his friend stands up and like $60,000, we need for my mom. And so then the cast of the Titanic comes out.
The musical.
Oh, the music. Okay.
Singing and with a check for $60,000.
Wow.
And they pay for the whole thing for her to be. And she's alive today. And so that is the most expensive postcard we ever sold. And it's a great video. John will have to send it to you.
I'll have to find that or send it to me, please. But it really all just boils down to postcards again. Postcards got them because you went out to the. Would you have made it out to the raising of the Titanic if it wasn't for postcards and to have a postcard with you and to have a postcard signed and then be able to save someone because everything is postcards. It's just you couldn't. It's just amazing. Postcard.
It is amazing, isn't it? And who would Edith Heisman thought how her signature, her signing a postcard, I mean, the whole thing, her dad dying on that ship, Joey going out to all on this postcard, that would save somebody's life ultimately. It's a pretty great story.
That is.
So that is my favorite postcard story because I love to brag about that one.
That's incredible. Yeah, please send me that. I would love to. I'll have to include it on here somehow. But that's amazing.
It is. I mean, you'll cry. I mean, I know you're probably not a big crier being a probation officer and all.
I will Saturday. I'm gonna be bawling my eyes out when I take my daughter. But anyway, but yeah, no, I get emotional. I do. I'm not all cold-blooded or cold small heart or whatever you want to call it, but. Yeah. So someone had asked in the chat about they were asking about pricing and I guess trends. Are chromes, what do you think about chrome cards and continentals? Are those coming into their own now?
So when I was a little girl, my first job sorting postcards is I would take out the black and white ones because nobody wanted them. These were the photos. These were early 70s.
Oh, okay.
I would sit at a table and I would remove anything black and white, which were the photo cards. And nobody wanted those. We didn't even take them to shows.
The newer, 50s, 60s photo cards, or we're talking old?
No, like the early.
I'm talking about the early ones. So we're talking in the 60s. Everybody wanted the printed cards, the sunbonnets, the clap saddles. Nobody wanted the black and white photos.
Oh my goodness.
Late 70s, the photos started to come into their own. And I always remember that. And I always think about that. Like, I will never, ever discard any type of postcard because you just never know. People love continentals. I have sold continentals Joey has laughed at me because I say, this is rare. This is a rare Continental. I had a set of Continentals that I thought were so rare. I sold at New York show for a few $100s. I'd never seen them. Haven't seen them since then. Joey's like, Mom, they're Continentals, but they were early Continentals.
They were, and I haven't seen them since.
Right. And so I love Continentals.
Yeah.
I love
some
them.
of my best sales were the first Disney, the black and white, the real photos colored of the Disney characters in Paris locations. They're Continentals, and I was $300, $400, $500 for each of those. So yeah, Continentals are good. But go ahead.
And
then Linens did the same thing.
Oh yeah,
like the linen advertisings. Like what was it? The 80s. People really didn't care about them at all, and now look at all like the diners and all those things that really took off.
Everything I think comes into there, and I keep going. I have a lot of stories from the Metro show, okay, because I feel like I grew up at the Metro show. But there was a gentleman named Abe Samuels that used to sit and only look in quarter boxes. My whole life. He was very, very nice. He was looking at quarter boxes my whole life. I would sit over there and talk to him, and he'd pick one out and buy it for me. And later on, when he died in early 2000s, his collection came up for sale. I remember saying to my dad, oh my goodness, like, what do you think is in that? Because all he ever did was buy in quarter boxes.
Right.
My dad said, oh, I bet it's good. Well, that collection brought almost $1 million.
Wow.
And it was Jackson's sold it. And what a lesson that taught me. I mean, he was like just scouring around those quarter boxes, but he just picked out things that nobody at that time wanted.
Right.
But when he put them up, they went up for auction after he passed away. Made a lot of money on it. So what do I think about chromes? I think people love chromes because they can identify with some of the places, they can relate to it. I think that Continentals definitely have a place. I mean, the early Continentals, the 60s, the 70s. Right. I love them.
And we have, the standard size chromes. I mean, I wouldn't say frequently, but we have it often happen where on eBay goes for $100 or or more. I mean, because people sometimes can more relate to it. It's more their time, their lifetime.
Right. You say you'll never throw a postcard away, but are there any postcards that you just maybe put in a box in the basement in the corner and just shut the light off and like, ew?
No, we are like a retirement home for postcards. We take care of everybody in our home. We do have a damage box. We put. I hate to put. No, we don't throw cards out. We don't throw cards ever in the trash. I don't care if it's torn in half, corners are off. We keep it. We put it in a box of damaged.
I used to. If it was damaged, too creased, for me for resale, I would throw it away. And then one time it was on Whatnot, and I was making fun. You get the old yellow tape on some postcards, and I was like, yellow tape, and I threw it away, and they went ballistic. What are you throwing that tape away? And so they love the junk journalers. They love that old tape that just peels right off the postcards, leaves the ghosting, but they love the old tape. And so I started saving all the scraps, and if it's just half of a postcard or something. And I sold 3.5 pounds of scrap postcards in my last Whatnot show for like $40. To the junk journalers are going to give it a second life in their junk journalers or in their junk journals, which is just, it's a work of art. And it's awesome to see the damaged postcards that I would either throw away or recycle are now going to be used in a piece of art. So, okay. I was kind of leaning, I'm not a big fan of Niagara Falls. It's just me. Or Mount Vernon. It's just the more touristy places that as a reseller, I'm not a fan of.
But see, we've had both of those places major sales.
Yeah.
Like somebody was doing it with like a museum in Niagara Falls, and they bought like 10,000 Niagara Falls cards.
And you wouldn't believe it, John, once it was on the wall, how beautiful Niagara Falls looked. They did a huge wall. There was no space. They did 1,000 Niagara Falls cards on the wall. It was beautiful. I mean, I'll have to send you the picture of it.
Did they do a collage like when you've seen the posters where they have like all the little pixels are individual like postcards, and then it makes a bigger Niagara Falls? Did they do that?
No, they took actual just old vintage postcards, and they just closely framed
Okay.
each one very closely together. But it was beautiful. I mean, it was really beautiful. We don't hardly even have any Niagara Falls. We sold so many
Wow.
Niagara Falls after that. I mean,
That's
we were
amazing.
selling Niagara Falls like crazy, because when you get people that are creative and do really creative
Yeah.
like that, I love it. I love being around that type of creativity.
That's awesome. I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I'm curious. What's the weirdest topic you've seen people collect? And it may not be weird. Obviously, it's not weird to them, but I'm just curious if, hey, do you have any women with one red shoe on standing in the street type of, and that may not be weird, but I'm just curious.
Don't say it.
I mean, probably.
Joey, don't say it.
Probably the oddest, and I don't want to go to jail for this. I've had a collector that would buy bare baby bottoms,
But
real photo. But if you had 1,000 of them, I mean, he'll buy every single photo baby bottom.
these are cutesies, like
Yeah, I understand.
ones.
But
Yeah,
there's probably
I had
the
peeing
oddest.
like little children peeing on statues.
Yeah.
The statues
That's another
peeing.
one.
Those are weird to me. But I'm sure we've had weirder. But when people come up and say, "Do you have any cute like art baby bottoms or peeing?" I mean, those we get the weird ones. But I
Yeah.
mean, I just look at Joey. You can handle that one. I don't sell. I don't sell all that weird stuff. No, I don't.
And just getting ready to finish up. What's your best advice for people who are just starting out in, say, if they're or just a collector or a reseller? What kind of advice would you give people?
Well, I think there's a lot of room in this hobby for people that want to resell. Okay, so if you are interested there, it's a great way, like Mike was touching on, it's a great way to make money, and you can educate yourself. I don't think you can get too burnt or lose too much. It's not like you have to make
Right.
a huge investment to be in this field. And I was discussing this with Joey last night, because I was telling him that during the Great Depression, H.E. Harris, which is one of the biggest stamp companies, started during the Depression.
Oh, wow.
It was the biggest time stamps were collected the most in history during the Depression. H.E. Harris started a small selling, very inexpensive stamp packets to people. And people with very, very little money would save just to buy those stamps, because it was their way of joy and happiness.
Sure.
A way to find some travel through their mind. And I think so many people now are getting that kind of joy out of collecting postcards. You literally can take $50 and buy so many great postcards and have so much fun. And I think that it's a great hobby for people, again, that you're just getting started. You don't know a lot about it. You're not going to get burnt on postcards. You're like,
Right.
oh my gosh, I lost all my money in the postcard market. It's not going to be like that. So I think that if you want to start, there's so many people like you and like us that can start people like easily. Even our auctions, when we're selling box lots for people, it's a great way to get started on, our auctions. Or, I know that you do a lot of box lots, and collectors, I mean, I would just pick there's certain things, like if you want to invest in Holtolites, I think they're still a great buy, but I find a fun niche. I'm collecting postcards with carpets on them for my son. Anything and Annie's always good about finding them for me. But find whatever you love, whether it's Datsuns or
We've found collectors that are new to the hobby that have taught us, because they just specialize. It's what they may have only been collecting for a couple of years, but they pick an area and they focus on it, and that's what they they know what the market is, and and they learn it, and they make it within, they make it with their knowledge.
Right.
I haven't been paying attention to these questions. I haven't.
No, there weren't actually. I don't think a whole bunch of questions. But if anybody has any pressing questions, get them in now. I want to, be mindful of everybody's time. But what your whatnot auctions? Let everybody know when your whatnot auctions are.
Well, we have a bunch.
Yeah.
Monday nights at 7, Tuesday nights at 6, Thursday nights at 7, Friday during the day with Emily at 11, and Saturday nights at 7.
Nice.
And we have, if anybody, we have lots of bulk cards in our warehouse in Perryville where you can come and get a lot of bulk cards.
Bulk cards.
Yeah. So if you're looking for like packs of things cheap, boxes of things cheap, and we have a lot of those in our Perryville warehouse.
Dave and I were mulling that over for a while. You're 4 million, but
we had somebody buy 1 million of them, and we gave them 1 million because it was buy a million.
That's a great BOGO. That's awesome.
And if you walked in there, you wouldn't even be able to tell they're gone.
Oh, no.
You can't even tell that the 2 million are gone.
Cards. Yeah, you can.
We'll have to send you pictures. If you're ever up, we'll have to show you just for fun.
That's amazing. And you have on your website, you have is it every other month you have a mega auction?
Well, every 6 weeks now.
We're trying. I think our next one is September 11th, but we're trying like every 6 weeks to month, 4 to 6 weeks now.
We have so many things on consignment. We can't keep up with it. We had to take a little break Joey, 4 to 5 collections a day. We talk to people or get in the mail. So we're
very time consuming in space. And then we have a lot of employees. It's a lot of work. 8 employees, counting the lots, picturing the lots, sorting it. So it's
the live auctions have kind of taken over my life a little bit more than I thought.
We kind of fight back and forth about doing them. They're very time, and when they're kind of done, I'm like, did we even make anything?
20%.
Or did we make anything, or did we just move out 100 boxes?
Right. Because I refuse to raise the buyer commission. That's like something a hard pass on. I hate buyer commissions.
Oh my gosh. They're like 25-30% we're seeing now.
Oh, exactly. I hate that. As a buyer, I don't want to pay it. So, I charge my sellers, we charge 20 to 25%, but they want me to charge a buyer, give them I'm not, I feel fortunate people are going to buy. Ultimately, they'll spend more on the cards if they don't have to pay 25% fees.
But she's not in it for the money. I like to make a little bit of money.
That's sharing of the postcards and getting
I just got this auction done, Joe. I can take a break. He's like, actually, Mom, you got 7 collections over there to do. And so we have criteria, though. We have real criteria with people's collections we take. You have to be patient. If you call us like more than twice, then we're sending them back. Do not call us. No, I'm just like, we can't have people that I need my stuff sold tomorrow because we're just not that fast. It's so much work. It's so labor intense.
Yeah.
And some of it we might get, like we've said, like 300 nurses. How many nurses can you sell at one time? And it's just going to dilute it. So we have to break it up over a year or something.
I'm selling 800 cats for somebody. I keep saying, I can't sell 8. I can't do a whole cat auction. They'll bring the price down so much. And it is a lot of work taking all the pictures, and it's the
counting, the shit. When we have an auction, it takes us a couple of weeks. It's several employees, one packing, one shipping, one pulling. So like I said, when it's all said and done, I think we end up making enough to go out to dinner.
It's not as fun. It's not as fun as the shows. The shows are way more fun.
Well, you need to find like a cat show, send Joey, have him dress up in like a cat, a furry cat thing.
Oh, that'd be good. Or on the corner, with a sign.
You can sell all the cat postcards at a cat show and get the postcard word out there. So, again, in interest of time, I could talk all night, but I don't want to keep you too late. So I do want to get let me see one more time with your website. I think I'll have it linked below, but let everybody know your website where they can go, get a book like this.
You can go to our website. It's www.marylmartin.com. And we have the book, and it have an events page to look at our shows. And it also has an auctions tab that you can check out our auctions. And it has, like 60,000 cards on it too, and everything like that. But if you go to our website, www.marylmartin.com, you can get in touch with us. You can check our auctions. You can check our shows and everything like that.
Okay. And then next show, is that York? Is that the next one?
That's the big one. It's York. And so it's full house. We're adding photography to it this time.
Wow.
So we have a lot of great real photography.
Vintage,
like cabinet cards, CDVs, that sort of thing. So we will have that in addition to the postcards. And it's full house. It's sold out. So we are fortunate. I mean, we have dealers from I think 27 states.
Utah, Washington, California. So it's sometimes the only time they're on the East Coast is for the York show.
Yeah.
Awesome. I made it 70 minutes without having 80 minutes without having a coughing fit. And there we go. So what I'm going to do now, anybody who has questions, you can leave them in the chat when this video goes, when it's posted. Everybody's watching live, but then it'll be eventually posted to my to the YouTube. But what I'm going to do now is I have to present the screen. Excuse me. And entire screen in here. So we're off to the side. So everybody who I don't know if you still have time, but put MLM postcards in the chat. There's 45 entries. Now I will say that when I put this in the chat at the very beginning, I think it entered me. So obviously, if I'm the winner, excuse me, I will redraw. So, and whoever wins, reach out to me, Popeyes Postcards at AOL.com, Popeyes Postcards, AOL.com, and we'll make arrangements, and I will get this book to you. So here we go, 50 entries, and it's running. I did see me go by. And Joe Samard, I think he's a member. I think you're a new member, Joe. Joe, congratulations. Reach out to me, and we'll get this right over to you. Thank you, Mary and Joe. I'm very honored again to have you here and agree to say it wasn't too bad. It just got 3 people talking about postcards, as I said, in front of a whole bunch of other postcard nerds. And I say that affectionately, as the same way I say postcard curmudgeons. I say that affectionately. So,
well, I'm sorry if there was questions or people were making comments because I didn't have my glasses on to read it. So I hope I wasn't being rude, ignoring anybody.
No, I put those up for everybody to see. We're good. Everybody's good. So Mary and Joe, I thank you again very kindly for this. Hopefully we can maybe do this again someday in the future. Maybe tour the Empire someday. That would be awesome.
That would be fun. If we ever do it, you're going to be the one to do it for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to hit end stream. Everybody, thank you very much. If you want to stick around for 2 seconds, everybody, thank you very much. I'm going to end the stream and go.